Hello and welcome, friend. My name is Tricia, and I recently ended my marriage of 18 years. As a newly single middle aged person in a small Midwestern community, I found myself adrift, unsure of what to do with all of the time and energy now much more freely available to me. And these questions kept popping into the back of my mind whenever I was conversing with friends and family. But what they all boiled down to is this: how do you single? So I decided to start asking people to share the gems of wisdom they've gained along their journeys. This episode's guest is Mike Hill, a very old friend of mine who hails from the state of Texas. Mike is a long-standing solo, and I'm so impressed with the great work he's putting into self-care. I think you're going to find his story resonating with you, especially if you are an autistic person or a highly sensitive person like me. I am so grateful Mike chose to share his journey with us, so let's get to it.
Mike, I'm so grateful and glad that you decided to join me in this episode. So, to start off with, could you tell us your story, background, etc.?
Okay. Well, I basically was kind of a kid with a lot of hypersensitivity issues, auditorily, like sensory, and like visually. And so I was just had a lot of natural discomfort, and so, uh, and I was bullied quite a bit. And then kind of growing up, I learned to use humor as like a coping mechanism to be like liked and accepted because I had a really hard time like emotionally or yes, emotionally, but also socially connecting with people. I would tend to go too far and say really ridiculous, awkward things.
Yep.
So that just made it into my adulthood. I was able to, I was a lot more adjusted, but I kind of never let go of like feeling awkward about myself or feeling like I'm not enough.
Mm.
Uh, and still a work in progress.
That really resonates, I think, with a lot of people, like feelings of, kind of like feeling awkward, feeling a little like left out, and just also like the discomfort of like being with people.
Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's like very exhausting, I think
Yeah.
is the thing. It takes a lot of energy. I don't seem to be able to do moderation in my life in almost any aspect.
Hmm.
So for me, it's either like I'm working really hard. I'm also a teacher, so I'm either being very performative at school or socially.
Mike, what are your workday, like weekday routines? So, an average working week.
I It's really very long days, probably getting everything ready the night before, showering the night before, so that I can hit snooze a bajillion times and just roll out of bed, maybe throw some water in my hair if I have the energy, throw on, my work clothes, not even having tied my tie yet, not even tucked my shirt in, you know. And I was so late one time that I just like ran with my shoes into the car and I put them on and like at a traffic light. So
Yep.
it's like that. And then I stay so late. It used to be when I was younger, I could be staying till 8 or 9.
Oh my word.
I know, long days. Now I don't let myself do that. I usually try to get out of there by 5:30, you
Mhm.
know.
But that's
So
still a really long day. I mean, when
e-
do you usually arrive there?
7:45.
Holy moly.
I used to arrive earlier, like 7:30, and then let kids come practice. And so it was like, even though it's not a class, like just having a mixed assortment of kids with random needs, I was just really
That's a
going,
lot.
going, going right,
Yeah.
right at the beginning. Uh, so yeah, then on weekends, and I don't always get a Saturday because there's a lot of events sometimes on Saturday I have to participate in.
Hmm.
So on weekends, I man, I will like stay up till two or three because I'm just so happy to be just relaxing. The lights, I mean, everything is off. There's no one that needs anything from me. It's like 2 in the morning. I don't have any texts. I don't have to think about anything. So I just kind of want to relish in that. But then that leads to all these negative things for the next day. And it makes it really hard to adjust to going back
Mm,
to work, you know,
sure.
the next week.
What are some of your weekend activities? I mean, you're talking about, like really relaxing and taking it easy and having it be really nice to not have like people needing stuff from you. But what are those sorts of things that you do when you're like, hey, I have the time?
You know, it's actually the goal is to not be social.
Hmm.
And if I can tolerate it, I'll try my best because that's the day that most people are available.
Sure.
So I on a good weekend where I have a lot of energy and the week is really good, I'll go out, maybe play some disc golf with friends. Uh, you know, I
That's fun.
usually have to go shopping, but if I'm really tired on weekend, I can make do till the next weekend, you know. But
Hmm.
on okay, let's see, disc golf, uh, maybe going out and walking. That's been something I've been doing lately that's made me feel pretty good.
Hmm.
But on a worst case scenario weekend, I would, like I said, I'll go to really late. I'd wake up like at 8 or 9, and then I'll come out to my couch, watch the news, fall back asleep till 1. And I mean, it's not unheard of for me to get up, do something around the house, and then just like accident, and then lay back down, watch stuff, and actually fall asleep,
Yeah.
5 or 6. And then how are you supposed to go to bed,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've kind of noticed that like the more that I'm awake and the more that I'm active, the more my body wants that. But when it just lays around and I'm sedentary, I am so much more tired. My body needs even more sleep, or so it
Yes. Yeah, I've
feels.
definitely noticed that for myself as well. It's very counterintuitive, but
Yeah, it is.
yeah. That makes sense. So you're talking about like it seems like your work is pretty requires like a lot of extroverted energy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm a music teacher, so concert, I get up there and as far as everyone's concerned, I've got it all figured out. I've got the humor. The kids do a fantastic job.
Right.
The parents all want to talk to me after the
But
concert.
that takes a lot out of you.
Oh man, it really
Yeah.
does. And then especially after a full day, if I could take the whole day off and just show up for that,
Hmm.
might be a little different. But
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm particularly curious about it in the context of loneliness because I know that it's often that like you're not necessarily alone when you experience loneliness. But yeah, I was just going to ask you like can you tell me are there times that you can recall that you've experienced loneliness and what has that been like and what do you do for yourself when you're struggling with that?
yeah, that's a good question. I think the way I was raised, like, was don't be needy, be completely self-reliant. I wasn't allowed to have girls over or stay at girls' houses. And, I forgot the point I was making, which of course you can cut. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yep.
loneliness. So I was basically trained and would just make an extreme practice of not needing anybody. I
Mm,
remember very distinctly, I would create this situation where I would just long so much for these girls, but
mm,
I'd had such bad experiences. I was so awkward and so bullied that I just didn't even think that I could possibly have a chance.
mm,
But I wanted like the approval of all my peers and of myself. And I thought that having one of these girls, my girlfriend or liking me back meant I was valuable. But then
yeah.
so interesting. When I would have interest, I would kind of reject it. Like I was like, oh no, no. And I would, push it away. And then it got to the point where I just, as I became, as I went to high school, where with like going through puberty and stuff, desires were so strong, and I just felt like there was no way for me to move forward and connect. And so I just started like criticizing. Like I started being like, oh, this is wrong with them. Oh, this is wrong with them. I don't need that. This
Mhm.
is wrong with them. Okay, good. Just kind of like, so that set me on a course that kind of set a cycle to where I would just constantly find imperfections.
Mm.
And that has left me, for the most part, alone, or at least a very isolated lifestyle,
Mhm.
with some exceptions here and there. But yeah, I don't know.
But
Did I fully answer that?
does that cause you to feel lonely? Or is it more of just like, because I think there's something about like, just because you have a romantic partner, or some a
Mm,
person that's like your person or whatever,
right.
or persons, like, that doesn't necessarily preclude you from being lonely. But
Absolutely. So
do you
yeah, as far as feeling lonely, I guess I will have this dichotomy that I'll just struggle with. I'll go back and forth. I'll sit there and I'll think. It's like those extremes I was talking about. I'll either think, "Oh my God, I'm so lonely," and then I'll either sulk and go more internally inside my introverted self, or I'll go do something about it,
yeah,
and I'll go out and meet people and try to, make connections. But again, those are
this
super
is very cool.
exhausting.
Okay, so this is like really like two paths in the woods. And of what I'm curious about, like, do you feel like it's easier for yourself to like kind of pull yourself back and get yourself into a, like, I don't know, a more comfortable space when you go like, I'm just gonna introvert for a while and like, dissociate, or whatever it is, like just see to my own self, versus like going out and doing stuff with people? Like, do you have a
You know,
sense of like which of those things tends to
so
work better for you?
that's that's the actual dichotomy. It wasn't the when I said that I'll either acknowledge my loneliness and do one of those two things. Well, that's actually opposing the idea of I really embraced a lot of philosophies of Buddhism. The other extreme is like, hey, accept, let let things fall in place. Like these are attachments. If I keep hanging on to these notions that I'm supposed to be this and I need to have this person and all that, like I will always be, in the end I'll be disappointed because nothing is permanent, nothing lasts forever. So it's like, okay, just accept myself as I am, accept the situation it is, and just be content with that.
Hmm.
Maybe if I was stuck with that 100% of the time, it'd be a good experience. But then I'm just fighting with myself. I go back to, oh no, I'm lonely. I got to do something about this.
Yeah. So neither path is a real straight path. There's lots of
Right,
branches off of
right.
both
I don't get it.
intersecting.
I don't get anywhere. Yeah, I don't get anywhere. You know?
Uh, well, that's annoying. Come on, self.
Yeah.
No,
You
I
said it.
get you.
You said it.
Nobody has all the answers. And it really depends on the day, the moment, the time, as to whether, yeah, whether it's like, I'm I'm fine as I am or not. Yeah.
Right, right.
I appreciate that. Okay, so what are could you talk about sort of the highlights of being a single solo person?
It's funny because when I think of that, there are a lot of good things, but then I kind of go to the extreme, right, of thinking that those aren't good things. One of the first things I was going to say, I don't have any roommates or anything like I used to, but if I see something funny or something that makes me like laugh really loud, and I just want to just explode with laughter, like I feel like I can do that without anyone here. But then again, it's like, no, there isn't such thing as being with, a person and being like that, and them
Right.
laughing with you or embracing that,
Yeah.
or, or just, regardless of who's around. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Okay, so what are some other examples of things that you can enjoy on your own or that you do enjoy on your own versus
I could have given you a long list. Like, I can do whatever I want. I have my own space. I think it's a control thing. I feel more comfortable when I'm in control, and when there's, people around me, either literally, in my house, in my physical space, I'm alone, or whether I am emotionally. There is like I think at this point I'm kind of sick of it. I don't feel like any of it's good anymore. I feel like, maybe it's I should, I ought to, I'm supposed to, but kind of ready to get out of that kind of rut and start connecting, a lot
yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so well, is that like are you experiencing like just some fatigue or just like a need for change just because you've kind of been single for a while or is it just like a kind of a.
I think both. I think giving my self permission to just kind of like, relax and go easy on myself so that I'm not physically fatigued and exhausted. I think that's
Yes.
a good
Huge.
approach.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
super
mean?
important. Yeah. I really like that. Okay, so we're gonna put our imagination hats on for a brief moment.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
So, okay, so we're putting on our imagination hats and you've been given a chance to go visit yourself back in time when you're going through some challenges, just in the difficulty of more so in the vein of like being on your own. Could you walk us through like sort of what that time was like initially?
You know, uh, if I know that I would not be able to hear anything that my future self would tell me, but if I could and I could really be open to it and just like whatever I said to myself would sink in and stick,
Mm.
I would probably, I don't know the exact words, but I would probably have expressed some kind of idea of just uh like accepting myself, or not taking the weight, not taking what everyone thinks about me, like, not weighting that so much. Like, that I can yeah, my parents, even my close friends and my bullies and everyone else, yeah, they would criticize me, and I kind of got it from all directions. Just, again, I was very, very, very awkward, but I would, if I could have taught myself how to just let go of what they think and kind of decide what I think. I think I would have like loved myself because I have talents and quirks and ways that I think that I'm really intelligent. I just see, I think the big thing is I have always seen things so differently from everyone else. So I've either been called a naysayer just for kind of speaking my truth, or arguing, or not, or a big one is just like not understanding. I mean, we could go down a list of 1,000 social norms that everyone just seems to get, but I see them, but they don't actually make sense to me. I'm thinking that might be a part of Asperger's, or being somewhere on the spectrum.
Sure. But it's part of you as well. Like so I
Well, I will say,
go ahead.
the love that I do have in my life and the people I do meet that I want to have a connection with, like, they totally see that,
Mhm. Yeah.
or not totally, but more than anyone else.
Yeah.
I've been seen enough times in my life to really appreciate it.
Yeah. I I love that you you're saying like when you go back to like you would go back to your younger self and you'd want to share like sort of like encouragement and like just like, hey, I see you as you are and like I accept you and also you're really awesome just how you are.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'd be like, look, yeah, exactly. You are these aspects. You think that they're bad. Like I had, red hair and freckles, and I just felt different. I just hated that about myself. Now, as an adult, my freckles have faded. My hair is more brown, and I don't know. I would give anything to not anything. I mean, that's an extreme, right? But I would love to have had that. And more so, I would have loved to have loved that when I was
Yeah.
at that age.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing.
And I gotta think that like younger you, even though younger you might not have listened very well to
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like how you you can't hear that. And I mean, it's
right.
it's obvious you don't have the same life experience. Like you couldn't put that into perspective.
But to even just have somebody that like as younger self, you know, to have somebody that like, hey, I see you. Even if it's just future me, like I see you. I accept you. You're awesome. You're going to grow up one day and look back at this time and be like, "Wow, you were fucking amazing." Just considering all this shit that you've been through. Like, you know?
I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I craved that so much. You
Yeah.
know, it's easy for me to look back and say, yeah, nobody saw me. I mean, it's a spectrum to different
Mhm.
degrees. People
Mhm.
did, but like, I guess I always looked around and objectively noticed that people couldn't understand me more than most people could be
Mm.
understood. I felt like that was an issue for me more than most people based
Yeah.
on how I would see people socially interact.
Yeah.
I don't know how objective that was. I mean, that's just a biased memory.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think that still resonates though. Are there any sort of thoughts or tips or things like that that you'd like to leave with listeners that are, you know, still also figuring it out and building their lives, especially as, like, potentially newly single people or people that have been for a while and are just frustrated and, you know, looking for some connection and some
Yeah, I would say, and I know this can be a painful process, but like being honest with yourself, like listening to your body, paying attention to it. Because if you will really do that, if you actually like listen to it, you might not think so, but if you do, it'll tell you it really will tell you what it needs. And when you can make yourself feel good, the more you can do that, I feel like the more you can be open to like positivity and love, I think that will just naturally happen. You'll be more open to good things and healthy relationships and
Mhm.
connections that are more positive and,
Mhm.
constructive and uplifting rather than
Yeah.
destructive. And
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely been the case in my own life. Like, I feel like I've got this community of friends and family that I didn't really realize that I'd had, or like I'd never really like leaned on before. And, you know, like,
I know this may be going a little backward, but you made me realize that the way I thought about myself and the way I treated myself, like I would use humor and I kind of would make myself a target a little bit and like
mm,
let people tease and laugh about it and maybe do it back. But I've kind of always perpetuated this kind of dynamic with people. And my getting older has actually been instead of noticing the love around me, it's been more like a process of replacing it, like letting go of friends who are kind of toxic. And that has been really hard because I keep telling myself, oh no, I've known them forever, you know,
mm.
like they're one of my oldest friends, but yet, you know, because I
But
just don't
yet,
want to lose it. It's like not wanting to move or not wanting to get divorced. You have to, just like you have to go through a whole grieving process. And for me, I feel like
yes,
that's very extreme.
yeah. But sometimes you do have to let go in order to move forward. Yeah. Even if it is hard,
That it is.
but sometimes,
I'm starting to think more like things don't have to be as hard as we make them. We let go.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't think it has to be about being hard and just tapping through it, pushing through it, fighting,
yeah,
to
yep,
get what you want. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it can be soft and easy also. Yeah.
I think I need a little bit more of that actually. I've been trying too hard on the other end.
Mm, yep. Well, Mike, I appreciate this so much. I really feel like I've gotten some really interesting, helpful insights here, and I just appreciate you sharing your experience with us on the podcast today.
You you bet this was pretty fun. And
Great.
a little bit cathartic. Like now I will be seen a little bit more, hopefully.
Yay.
So
Awesome. Well, thank you
thank you.
so much.
I hope that you were able to glean some gems from our conversation and will join me next time for a new guest. Please like and subscribe to hear more, share with friends far and wide, and feel free to text me with questions or any thoughts you had. I'm grateful for you and look forward to connecting, sending lots of love your way. If you liked what you heard today and are interested in expanding your perspective on living solo, I highly recommend the Solo Podcast by Dr. Peter McGraw. How Do You Single is produced, edited, and designed by me, Tricia Blosser. Special thanks to my guest, Mike Hill.